Bright suns and rising moons, fellow droids. Welcome to the Not the Droids podcast. I'm Danny.
And I'm Mary, and today we are starting Skeleton Crew. So we'll
Everyone's
be
starting Skeleton Crew.
everyone is apparently. So on this episode, we'll be talking about episode one that premiered just this week. I'm blanking on the name.
Episode 1 is This Could Be a Real Adventure, and episode 2 is Way, Way Out Past the Barrier, which I'm really loving how they're titling these because it feels very much the age range
That
of,
they're going of the
yeah, it
kids.
feels like these kids were writing their story for class. And they're
Yeah.
like, this could be a real adventure. You know, these released December 2nd, day earlier than they planned,
I was
2024 on
gonna ask
Disney
you,
Plus.
I completely missed that. I texted you to be like, oh, what? And you're like, no, it's releasing a day early.
Well, I guess like I had sent you reels and like photos, and I guess you were just like, oh, okay, and didn't like pay attention to the date because that's why I had sent
Oh.
you those.
Oh, that would make sense. I will be more attentive in the future because, like, I was
I
like, oh,
will
so
write
cute.
why I'm sending you things next time.
In the first episode, we very slowly get introduced to all of the kids. After a really jarring start, but we got a jarring start. We get introduced to all of the kids. And we kind of get the lay of the land of the planet that they live on. We start learning what day-to-day life for these kids are at Atten and kind of like what is the standard, how they're meant to grow up. It's very like cookie cutter suburbia.
It's very dystopian novel. Very like giver, like dystopian where everything is like you
It's
take a
very
test,
orderly.
figure out your career. Everyone has a very big expectation on them of what they do, and it's like an assigned thing. And that's why
And
like
it's
you had made the comment that they were so young to be doing their assessment.
yes. So
But
that's
in
where it's
like
like we learn that these things are standard. Um and we kind of understand the main characters and their backgrounds a little bit, which
yes.
I think was a really good way to start the episode. Well, not to start it, to kind of flow through. The beginning itself, I had only one note, which was holy jump scare. Holy jump scare. I did
You
not
had
expect.
another note.
Well, I had a note in Fable, but I originally was starting to
Yeah.
take notes in the notes app because I was like, oh yes, I could take notes and notate on Fable. I couldn't do both.
No.
Um, but my own personal note, because I jumped, I was like, I was because it looked like a very Star Wars thing. They had the like little title slides about how they were explaining the concept of like pirates and stuff in the
Yeah.
galaxy. And then so you see the one ship, and then all of a sudden you're just like, bam.
Demon
You're like,
Wolf Man.
oh. But that wasn't even he wasn't even the lead
No.
pirate at that time. But I thought it was a very interesting way to just introduce how violent the pirates are,
Hmm.
and aggressive and going for it, and the fact that that vault had a single credit. Can we just talk, what was that vault for? I think I put a comment in, I was like, there has to be something else in there.
I think we will loop back to this when we discuss episode 2 because it makes more sense
It
with the
did not
one
make.
credit.
Okay, so later on you'll have to explain to me what that means
We'll
because
talk
I
about
don't.
it when we talk. Let's focus on this episode first.
But yeah, but I did in the beginning, reading the title slides, I realized very quickly, and I was glad that they did that because I realized it even not knowing too much about it, that this movie was set directly after the original trilogies.
Yes.
Um,
So
and
this is
so
so the quote I had sent you, which I pulled off the interwebs, is that Skeleton Crew is set in the New Republic era, generally at the same time as The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett, and Ahsoka, and after the events of Return of the Jedi.
okay,
I
that
know
makes
that
a lot
doesn't
of
like mean
sense.
reference for you.
Yeah, that's why I was like generally that, and I also generally don't remember the names of the movies in relation to where they are in the timeline. So that makes a lot of sense because this is like that weird in between the original trilogy and the newest one, which I feel like there's a lot of time
Yeah.
ish.
And then we have
Um,
this moment where we go from scary pirate guys, which I was not expecting that start because we've been seeing all this ad work with all the
like the
kids.
kids.
And we're watching these
That's right.
pirates and they were scary looking.
The
And
wolf
then
guy.
we get our opening credits and all of a sudden everything is peaceful and you're like,
Where are we? That's where I was just like, wait a second. It's like, and that's where I was just like, I don't know if I've ever seen a planet like this in Star Wars universe. And I don't know if that's, I'm not just not remembering or I haven't seen that content,
mhm.
but it was very strange to me because it's like, oh, now we've come to like a wholesome suburban neighborhood
Yeah.
where the parents go to work, the kids go to school on the tram. It's like a normal neighborhood, but it's not. I
Yes.
really wanted to comment out the set design of At Atten to me is so standout because I like it really puts you into the headset of just like, oh yes, we're like we have places to be, places to go, and it's not an adventure. This is just daily life.
We meet our first child. I
Oh
don't think
yeah,
it's
Whim,
Wim, played by
it,
Robbie Cabot Conyers.
adorable. Um, the biggest Kai energy I
Did you
have
see
ever
my note?
seen.
I'm like, I'm not convinced
No,
his name is not Wim Brightstar.
oh, that would be amazing.
I'm like, is
Because
Wim related to Kai? And he dreams of becoming a Jedi.
Jedi. Also a tablet child, with his story pad, I think is that
Mhm.
what it's actually called.
He's
Um,
he just has a Colorsoft Kindle and is watching graphic novels of Jedi. That is what he's doing.
that's what no yellow bar at the bottom.
No yellow
Uh,
bar.
no, so it was kind of interesting to see the dynamic between him and his dad, um,
Wendell.
Wendell,
Props to
who
the actor though. The actor that plays Wendell. Let's see if I have his name. Tunde Adebimpe as Wendell. I apologize if I butchered that name.
he was a pro like he got it across in his very few lines that just kind of like do you get the feeling like that overworked dad
Mhm.
that's just like and I don't know what
Single
happened to the
dad.
mom, single dad, something definitely happened to the mom here, but who just is it stressed at work because he said there's like a supervisory review, so he's going to be working late and then just like piles credits on the table. And I will say I didn't note it in Fable, but when I was watching I was like I have never seen money that shiny in Star Wars.
It is clean.
I was like that is the cleanest shiniest money I have ever seen. Um that I don't think I ever put together that credits are made out of metal.
Hmm.
I always just thought that they were like, I don't know, some
Like a credit
alloy.
card.
Like,
No, they're like
yeah,
coins. They're like
I thought it was like
coins.
plastic, but now I was like, oh, they're coins.
Yeah.
And then he just like dumps a bunch on the table, which I thought was hilarious. A hilarious juxtaposition to the last scene where we only found one credit on the floor of this massive vault.
In his lunch money, he gets a handful of credits.
I know, that's your lunch money for the week. I'm gonna be late from work. And I was like, dang, this is a latchkey kid. Um,
Aren't we all?
Yeah, so it was funny. I absolutely adored Neil.
We are members of the Neil Nation.
Seriously, he is adorable
Robert Timothy
and
Smith plays Neil.
also adorable. And I was talking about this before we started recording, but the amount I would love to see his transformation. Was that all CGI?
I
Was that
bet we
all
get it.
practical? Or is it a mix of both? And how did that work with such a young actor? Because I think he did it. And also, like his trunk, there is a mouth underneath. It's like
Mhm.
there is actually a mouth underneath that is moving. So it's like, how did they film that? I was just kind of, it took me out for a second because I am watching this and I'm like, this is a real child that is acting. Because at first I thought it might not be, but then the voice came in and I was like, that's a child. I think these kids are around 11 or 12.
Yep, I'm gonna get preteen. I'm going with
Yeah,
preteens.
I feel like Wim and Neil are maybe 11 or
Fern and
12,
KB might be
like
13.
13, 14, like a little
I don't think
bit
they're 14. 14 feels like pushing it. I feel like they're right on the cusp.
13.
They're cuspers. I want to go back to Neil because there's
Yeah.
some conversation and there's things that say he's an Ortolan, which we have seen in the Star Wars universe. But some people are very much, no, he is not. I read one comment and I like to believe this. We have met some other friends in the Young Jedi, Gumar and his little
Yeah, I
brother
was gonna
from
say
Andraven, and I kind of feel like Neil may
they're
have a relation
to
to
that
them over the Ortolan. So
do
there
you know
isn't
what
enough
they're
information. Like I haven't seen anywhere where it's been
about
confirmed,
what they're
but
called?
everything is saying that it's the Ortolan. But then there's a lot of tests that are like, no, he's not. And I can see the differences because we have seen that creature in other things. And I'm like, he really does look like our pal Gumar, and I can't remember his
Here's
gel
the
is like
other
jelly or
thing.
something.
Here's the other thing, and maybe we can't talk about it till later, but like maybe they're slightly different on this planet. Um, and they're not one or the other, but something else entirely. Because I also like it's hard because like
It'll be like a
Young
relation.
Jedi is an yeah, like a relation, like Young Jedi is an animation. And like with the other thing is
Mhm.
like with the universe so propagated, like it could like things could be evolved differently on
Yeah.
different planets based on the conditions of that planet. So I wonder if like all of these species have a base
I
that they
just really
have
like
then
the
since
idea of
evolved
the
from.
tie into Young Jedi, which we have not
I
received.
There were so many tie-ins as we were watching this. But
Yes.
yeah, Neil was adorable. Their fake Jedi battle, which you commented, my guts, they're everywhere, which he's so dramatic. I love how like he threw himself into that. And then he came all the way out of it. He's like, I think I have an eyelash in my eye. And Wim was a good friend here to be like picking it out. And my favorite is the shot across the street where it's like all the other kids waiting for the bus, being like, what are you even doing? Like, guys. And that's how you start. I feel like you start to catch that they're a little different
Yeah.
in mindset to the other people that they're with. Um, you commented about the bus droid. I laughed so
Poor bus
hard.
droid.
They stuck gum to the back of the bus droid, and there was no name for it was just a bus droid.
Also, gum is now canon in Star Wars.
Yes, it is. And I wonder if it's like made out of a sap or something.
I don't like gum. I was just like, oh,
But I did think it was funny that like the tram, the school tram was just as chaotic
yeah,
as you would expect
that's
from a bunch
straight
of
up
school age
bus.
children. Like
That is
that
a
is
school bus.
bus.
And from
And
the
like,
bus, we spot someone else. Ryan Kira Armstrong plays Fern.
yes, she looks familiar, and I was trying to figure out why.
Firestarter, American Horror Story, The Tomorrow War, and Anne with an E.
I
I
haven't
loved
seen any
Anne
of
with an E,
those,
but
but
she must have been pretty young.
yeah, I've probably seen the adverts for those, but because she looks familiar. But I was kind of torn on Fern. I like she looked really cool in the beginning. I was much more drawn to KB in that scene where he's like watching them take the shortcut. On their what is it called? The hover bikes? Because
Sure.
it looks like
Yeah.
a bicycle. I think they called it a hover bike because the droid
In my head, they're
was
still speeders, so,
I know, but they're not quite
but they're not,
speeders.
yeah.
I think one of the safety droids was yelling that you can't have hover bikes on the path.
Yeah.
Oh my God, these poor droids were just yelling in
These droids are
overtime.
everywhere.
The
These droids control the
whole episode,
world
the safety droids, the bus droids, the teacher droid. I was like, there's droids literally
everywhere.
everywhere on this world. Um,
You mentioned KB. I'm sorry if I'm butchering
yeah,
any of these names. Kiriana Cratter it plays KB, who is Fern's best friend.
which she's definitely a mechanic. And I feel like they introduced her in such a fun way as being the mechanic. Like she wears the headpiece, like very
She's a tech kid.
Cyclopsy.
Not
Yeah,
like
a very
there's iPad kid, but she's like a tech kid. Like she knows her
yeah.
stuff.
Like she's not just participating, she's actually like doing stuff. And um she's riding like sidecar, which was fun. And I loved the moment where they just like go over and they just drop into the
Drop.
woods. And he's like, did anybody else see that? And I was just like, I mean, but I feel like this is like his little like boy eyes being like, whoa, I want to do stuff like that. Like I don't want to be on the bus. I want
Yeah.
to be that kid. And then having them in school, the teacher droid was how could you learn from that? It was so boring and monotone, and I was just like, but maybe they're used to it. But I did like the comment you made about the Etch a Sketch, and I love that
That's
that
what he was
program,
doing. It was like an etch a sketch.
it wasn't like an, it was
It
exactly an
was.
Etch a Sketch. But I like that even in school they have that program for some reason. And that he got
Oh, he
caught by
hacked
the
his board. Come on.
undersecretary. What was her name?
Don't have her. She's not on my list.
Undersecretary Farah. Um, who also was just like she walked by and didn't even like she was just like I was like she walked by as if she was the teacher. I was very and like so he was like, "Oh, I have to," but maybe he knew who she was, and that's why. But she introduced this concept of career path,
Hmm.
or not career path, sorry, the great work
Yeah.
and your contribution to the great work. And that's why they're taking an assessment to learn their career path so that they can contribute. And I was like, this is sounding very culty.
It's a little culty. I wish you had read The Giver. It's very that
Yeah, I have not
dystopian.
read the
It's like that dystopian type. It's not dystopian. It's
well,
like
like
utop. It's
in
almost like utopian where they believe they have this perfect thing and people all have and there's only certain jobs that you can have and paths you can take to fill what is needed by the community.
wait, there's a isn't that like the storyline of Divergent too? Kind of.
Yeah, but The Giver was better.
Well, I haven't read that. That was during the time frame. I used to go to Costco and BJ's and spend my allowance on Cliff Note notebooks because they used to actually be books and not
Yeah.
internet pages. Um, but yeah, so that was really interesting and informing about why the dad was like that, I feel like,
Yes.
because like it's very much the focal point
He
of the
essentially was having his
society.
work assessment.
Yeah, and that makes sense.
And then we met Fern's mom, who was like, you have to stay top of the class. So that kind of explains Fern's
Well,
rebellious
so
side.
Undersecretary Farah is Fern's mom. Did you catch that?
Yes. I'm like
Yeah.
staring at the name and it's not. She was played by Carrie Condon. Condon. On here it just says Farah and it didn't have the full title, so I just kind of glazed
Yeah.
over.
Yeah, so she's and you kind of like because we get snippets of Fern who's clearly rebellious, but her mom is pushing her to stay at the top. And
Hmm.
it's like you got your patch. I like that they have a patch for
Yeah.
being top of the class back. And then she was just like, there's not a lot of spaces at the top.
Yeah.
And I don't think she was talking about school top. I think she was talking about society.
Positions, yeah.
Yeah.
Like careers that you can be in and you have
And
to be.
so she can't slip. She can't let the top
No.
of the class slip because she needs to stay up there. We kind of there was a very cute moment, which first of all, where they were talking and Neil was being such a good friend to Wim to be like, if you're not prepared, I can fail my
Yeah,
assessment
I was like,
too,
no, you don't do that, Neil.
so that we could stay in the same class. But the only thing that made him pause was because he's got a crush on Runa and he
Runa.
wouldn't be in the same class as her. And
Hmm.
I was just like, oh, how sweet. He's torn between being in the same class as the girl he has a crush on and
Yeah.
his best friend, who's clearly extremely unprepared for life.
I really enjoyed Neil being like, "What do you think we've all been studying for?"
I know that was such a funny
And Wim
moment.
was just like, "We're always studying. I don't see a difference."
He's just in his story pad.
Yes.
Um, but I so in that scene in their house, I thought it was very interesting. I was like, not Fern gaslighting the like nanny droid or the maid
Yeah.
droid, where she was trying to be like, if she asks, I've been
Fern's a
here the
little
whole time.
gaslighty in a lot of this.
And a lot of this, and but she was just like, she was trying to reason with the droid to be like, do what I say, and she was like, oh, I
Mm.
can't lie. And so she's like, whatever, I'll just override your memory.
Yeah.
But yeah, I again that speaks to her a little bit. Like she is gaslighty
Hmm.
throughout this. So, but yeah, it's interesting that the two parents that we have met have been not, I would say they're not bad parents, but they're not attentive.
They're not attentive, and I feel like our undersecretary, it comes from a place of needing to keep her status and expectations, whereas Wendell, it's a place of single dad trying to do the best he can.
Yeah, and this is where that night, like you see Wim trying to cram, which clearly is not going to work.
Hmm.
And his dad kind of does allay his fears, like you'll get it eventually.
Yeah.
But at the same time, is also not like when he asks for a story the way mom used to, which
Yeah.
is clued me in that the mom is probably dead.
Yes.
Um,
We're
he was just,
gone. I don't want to say dead because this is Star Wars
oh,
universe.
she could be gone.
And in my head, I'm like, there's a possibility that mom appears sometime because
You're
she's
like, I
like
have no
off
trust.
planet. I don't know.
Uh,
I don't trust these shows. You think someone's dead and all of a sudden they reappear 2 seasons later. No. I'm not
but
willing
yeah,
to
but
commit until they say something. I'm not willing
you're
to
not
commit to
willing
that
to
answer.
commit. He says something which I think is so off-putting for someone. He's like, You're isn't it a little bit like, aren't you a little bit old for stories?" And I
Yeah.
was like, so like creativity is not a thing
No.
they care
There
about
are
on this
no
planet.
arts on this planet. There's no creativity. This is a only what aids society and what they think. We do not have arts in this school. There's
Yeah.
no instruments.
Um, but yeah, so we go, obviously. I'm trying to remember where that was he that was that when he turned on the holograph kids show, which by the way,
The Holograph
I
Kids
was
show
like,
was Neil's siblings watching them.
yes. Oh, because they went
Because he
later,
went to
but
because he had found, because our friend Wim misses his assessment and has to take the shortcut.
I loved how they filmed that because it was just Neil in the back of the bus. Be like,
Yep.
he was so worried for his friend.
Who takes this shortcut, which is very reminiscent of another movie. Wim going on this shortcut was very reminiscent of the Return of the Jedi speeder chase scenes.
Oh, I don't remember that. I haven't seen them enough.
You're gonna Google them afterwards and you'll go,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. My favorite part of that though was because like the day before you saw Fern and KB just kind of go over the barrier in the speeder bike because they have a skill level with the speeder bike, and Wim couldn't do that. He just chucked his bike over. And I
Yep.
was like, wow, awesome. And of course, it didn't work out for him. We'd never thought it was going to. He got caught. He fell in a ditch.
He's
He
covered
got,
in dirt.
oh my God, so much dirt.
Find something, but then a droid, because apparently when they
A
miss
security
school,
droid.
droids go looking.
Also, how did the droid know to go looking there?
Oh, you bet you know these kids have trackers on them
I
somewhere.
wonder if they do.
These kids are
But
tracked.
so he gets in trouble. He's dirty AF. And then he like runs into Fern waiting for the principal. And I feel like Fern, I could not get a grasp on her if I liked her or not, because I was like, what is wrong with this child?
Like it just
I,
feels like something that like your sibling would be like, you know what's gonna happen to what happens to
your
people that miss the
sibling,
assessment?
your sibling. They
Oh,
don't know each other.
I mean, that's not going to stop me.
But I think it speaks a lot to her character
Yeah.
in the show. Like she's gaslighty. She's kind of like she's bored. I feel like she's bored with her life and she's taking it out on like the people around her to like make herself more amused.
I don't feel like it's like she's bored with her life. I feel like
Or she's trying to push against the like straight
yeah,
and
I
narrow
think she is like a classic like preteen
rebel.
rebel.
Yeah.
And she's just like, and she just like wants to like, she's almost like a prankster in a different way though, not like ha ha funny, but like manipulative, sneaky funny. Like, you know what
Yes.
happens when it's like when
Failures.
you remember like when you went to, we were going to be a freshman in high school and all the horror stories that you would hear.
And you grow up and you learn that none of them are true.
It's exactly like that. This is what she's doing, and she does it
And
constantly
for her own
for
amusement
her
too.
own amusement and enjoyment. Even when they go back to find this secret Jedi temple, as Wim believes it to be.
I was just like, bro, there's only circles. Like so many things can, but then I have to like he's his only reference point is this story pad, right?
Yes.
So I can see where he thought that. I can also see why everybody thought he was like a crazy kid with an overactive imagination. The dad was pissed, like any parent would, that like he had
You
to
just
leave
missed the
work.
assessment that determines your career,
Yeah, you're
like your
hold back a
future.
year.
This is your future.
But also he was just like, I had to get pulled out of work for this.
Yeah. In the middle of my personal assessment.
And I was like, oh, parent woes there. But yeah, so that's where they're going home. And you see, because he goes to Neil's house, right? Like he goes home, the dad drops him off, and then he automatically has his bike back. I don't know where that bike went. Maybe the security droid also picked that one up. Um, and he goes to Neil's house, and you kind of see like Neil has a attentive, loving family.
And a great bathtub.
Yes, and a great bathtub. I was just like, I love the like the snapshots, but like, and you see that a little bit from like the day before school day, where like
Yeah.
everyone is home to greet him when he comes from school, right? Like, as opposed to like Wim, who comes home to a completely empty house, not a droid to keep him company, apparently.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so I love the exchange where Neil's like, "Is this gonna get me in trouble?"
Yeah.
And of course Wim cares about his own stuff, and he's like, no, it's not gonna get you in trouble. Of course not. I I am not confident in Wim's ability to be a good friend. Just like Sir Kai Brightstar. I feel like he has it in him, but he overrides like his own wants and needs. Like he's the main I know he's the main character, but like like he's the main character and he doesn't really think too hard.
Right now, it's about what will bring him some fun. Because we even see
Yes.
this later on when Neil like just wants to go home, and Kai's like, it's not Kai. Wim is just like, but look at this stuff. Look how cool this is. Isn't this amazing? And he's just like, I
Yeah.
just want to go back home into my tub with my
Yeah, I know.
family.
Well, because like so like so we see them go. Obviously, um, Fern overheard him talking. Fern, who's also looking for excitement in her life, has come out to find the quote unquote Jedi temple.
And Wade
Fern,
claims these.
I love this situation of claimsies. And then they're just like, well, I said unclaimsies. And he was just like, but we weren't here. We were the original claimsies. So now, and then I could see it coming from a mile away where they're just staring at her. And then she goes, unclaimsies. And then Neil's like, oh, she's, you know,
Good. She's good.
she's good. But she's kind of a scrapper. Like we learned about this concept in Young Jedi, and like they're just scrapping for parts at this point for her speeder as opposed to buying them.
Yeah.
Um, so that which I thought was interesting. And I liked how they like manipulated the boys into doing the digging.
That feels so on par. And they're like stupid boys, and the boys are like, these girls are dumb. As soon as we get in, we're calling
We're gonna
claimsies
do
inside because
claimsies on
they
the
only call claimsies
inside.
outside.
But it's like you thinking about like 11 and 12-year-olds, and you're like,
Yeah,
this is so true to age. Like the writing
on
is so on
brand.
point. It was so good, the writing. And so they end up going, and I even wrote it while they were digging. I think I wrote I was like, this is defo a crashed ship, right? Because I was looking at the door, and then when KB like found the panel, which I loved, that all she like just plugged right into it and was
Yeah.
just like dee, dee, dee. It reminded me of like Amy, like Ami from Sailor Moon, like Sailor Mercury with
Yeah.
her visor. It's like I loved it. Um, and again, there was a slight jump scare with the dead droid, quote unquote, and I was like, that is a scary droid. Um, but it was cool to like see the ship, and I was wondering to myself though, it's like, do they not understand that they're on a starship? It took me a while to realize that they didn't know what starships look like. Because
No.
the second they boarded, I was like, oh, that's
Yeah.
definitely a
But
starship.
we like realized like later on, like once the ship takes off, they haven't really seen stars. They didn't know there was so many because they're like, what is
Yeah,
all
he was like,
this?
I think those are
And that
well
there's a
because
barrier on the planet.
yeah, well, so we'll dive back because like of course, like they're exploring, they're trying to restore power. So the three of these kids are more concerned with getting off and getting home because like that's what they want. Whereas Wim is more concerned with adventure. And of
Mhm.
course, he clicks. All the lights go on, and he sees a blinking light. And even after everyone says don't click anything, he clicks it. I did not expect this ship to go in autopilot and vamoose with these kids. And I think that was like a very well done scene because you see the dad had already come out looking
Like
for
dad was
them,
looking for him, and that's why I think dad is not necessarily an
a
inattentive parent.
bad
I think he's
parent.
a
Yeah.
stressed single dad parent.
Yeah. So he was looking for him. And then, like, obviously, the ship comes to life, brings up, which is crazy that the autopilot was programmed that way. And I wonder if we'll ever find out why. Like,
Hmm.
I wonder if we'll find out in the ship's log or somehow what happened to the ship, that it was
Yeah.
crashed. And it's so old that it has been um
Buried.
buried and to the point where no one knows it's there.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, but it was kind of interesting because like they've shot to the sky before where you see the swirlies and you
Hmm.
saw the red dot grid from the barrier. So and that's where we get introduced to this concept of the barrier where they were like, guys, we're heading towards the barrier. Like this is illegal.
Yeah.
And that's where I was like, because they were like, oh my God, this is a starship. And I was just like, have they never seen one before? And then they didn't know what stars
And if
were
you
because they
think
realized,
about it, there's nothing like in other Star Wars, there's vehicles flying everywhere. They were on buses and bikes.
yeah,
They
that's why
didn't
I'm like
have
the
flying vehicles.
that's why they don't have speeders and there's not a port where you like see ships coming in and
Mhm.
out. So it's like very much like, oh, they really don't know. Like everything they know about space seems to have come from a book,
Yeah.
possibly, and they've never actually seen it.
Yeah. Never
And
studied
then
it.
the episode ends with them entering hyperspace, right?
Yes.
And I was like, oh my God, these four children and that poor dad who's underneath, who actually
And you're
visibly
just
saw his
watching him.
kid.
One, you're watching his kid almost fall out of the ship. So
Oh my
dad's
God,
like,
that dead. And then the ship flies away.
hmm.
Like, I was like, this poor dad. That is crazy. And I will say that was a solid pilot, like first episode.
Yes.
Um,
Wild start to our adventure.
I think we know that our favorite character is Neil.
I
It's
don't,
very
I
obvious.
right now we're at introductions. I would not claim a winner of the episode because
No,
we are meeting everyone for the first time. And I don't want to, we love Neil. We are
I
Team
love
Neil
Neil and
Nation.
KB. Team sidekick, I guess.
Yes. I like them all,
Uh,
so I'm not willing to pick just one, even though we're big Neil
yeah.
fans. I favorite line of Neil's was Your bones are too heavy.
Funny. That sequence of Wim, he brought the rope, smart kid. He was gonna rappel down, and Neil didn't even try. He just went face forward as soon as he pushed off. And I was like, and he was like, "What did you do?" And he was like, "Your bones are heavy." I was like, what? That was so funny. That was hilarious. That little like before they like, and then they both fall into the ravine, and I was just like, there are I will say like this episode was so dynamic. It conveyed exactly what life is like for like 11 or 12-year-old boy who wants
But we also
who
understand that pirates are a huge thing in this universe. They're in this idyllic planet. It was beautifully shot. The cast is amazing. I'm ready for
costumes
this
are
adventure.
great. Yeah, yeah. I would say like everything, it's like it's giving exactly what I wanted it to give.
Yeah, and like a lot of
Um,
people are comparing it to like, and this will come more in the next episode, is like very much Goonies in space.
I've also not seen Goonies.
All right. For our
Okay,
friends listening, if you have not watched episode two, pause here, go watch episode two, and then come back to us. So, but if you have watched episode two, continue along as we venture into way, way out past the barrier.
which was hilarious because I was just like, I saw the title. I feel like they're only going to release the titles as they release the
I think
episodes. That's what they've
so.
done in the past. Um, we started, and this is where I was trying to also because I saw your comments on Fable, and I was like a solid minute behind you. So I was trying to catch up to you, and I think I did finally. And so that's where I was just like, "Ooh, okay, this is kind of better." So when you were like, "What is that noise?" I was laughing because I was just like I could tell from a mile away because like in the last episode we
Well,
had the droid come to life
I
and I was
knew
like,
what the
guys,
noise was.
I know, but I was just like suspense. It's definitely the evil
Yes.
droid, which I thought was gonna fight them, but the way it did was hilarious.
SM-33, played by Nick Frost.
Pirate droid.
Pirate droid.
Everything you want from a pirate. I was like, the amount of
We are
personality.
on a pirate ship.
I know, but the amount of personality in this droid, the way it talks, the way it moves, the way that so like when I think pirates, I always think Pirates of the Caribbean. And there's that one scene in Pirates of the Caribbean when they're talking about parlay and
Mhm.
like they like confuse the pirates to the point where the pirate has like done what they wanted them to
Yeah.
do. Like, and I felt like that was kind of like this because they were like, Fern, first of all, again with her wildness, was like, I killed your captain. And I was like, why did it have to be so dramatic? Like,
She knows how to get stuff done.
what?
Can we also mention that our pirate droid definitely like walks like he has a peg leg?
No, but that's why the way the characterization of this droid is amazing. The little rat that lives in its brain, like,
I couldn't with her.
I was like, this droid is giving literally like chef's kiss, everything you would expect from a pirate droid. But yeah, so Fern convinced the droid that actually I'm the captain now. And my favorite were Wim's like, why couldn't I be the captain? She was like, nobody wants you. We're in this mess because it's your
This is your
fault.
fault. And he's like shown a little remorse, realizing it's his fault, but
Like
not.
he stomps off, right? Because he does feel bad and you can tell that he is upset and he knows it's his fault, but then he constantly is saying it's not his fault. And I'm just like, bro, you pushed the buttons. It was always your fault.
Also, can we talk about how they're like exploring and Niels like just wants to go home
I mean,
and
to
Wim's
his
just like, here is a skeleton for you to hold.
oh my God. Like Wim was like so excited to be on this adventure. And this is where I'm like, Wim is not a good friend because Neil is so sad because he's like, but what about my parents and the twins and little baby? Like, I forget all the names, and they all started with a T. which I thought was funny because Neil does not start with a T. And I was like, why does everybody else have T names and not you? But okay. But like you could see that like the other kids are jarred because they're so far away from home. They're
Yes.
scared. They want to go home and they're like even Fern with her mom being the way she is, it's just like, no, we want to go home. Like this adventure is not an adventure. Like we just want to go home
Yeah.
and sleep in our bed. And Wim is just like playing with everything like it's such a game. And
Yeah.
like they're skeletons, they're dead people. And he's just like, did he like throw a
Trying
head?
on
And I was
dusty
like,
old hats. Ooh. Ooh.
ugh. I was just like that
Well, yeah. And now they're trying to get home, and SM-33 has no idea what Aten is. So this is our
so
first
that's
clue.
that there's something amiss.
Something's off. Like, and at this point, I was thinking it's been renamed. The ship is so old. The ship has a
Yeah.
different name. It didn't have like track, it crashed, so maybe its systems weren't working and they couldn't return it to where
I
it was.
think I went the route that maybe like the way they are, because I also noticed there was no start like ships, and maybe they like something happened and they removed the planet from the star maps or something like that. I was thinking more like Firefly, like for some reason, like this planet was removed from star maps and space travel is restricted to
Hmm.
kind of preserve it, I guess, or hide it. But I'm not certain like who's made that decision and
Yeah.
how did this planet get lost. And so like
SM-33.
SM-33, of course they were like, well, so you we do need you to take us somewhere. And of course he takes them to a pirate like haven. And I'm just kind of like, these poor kids are just like running around here. And we know that these pirates are vicious and super violent. But they're just like these innocent little kids. Wim has so much money on him, shiny, shiny credits. And that's where I laugh because when they docked and the little Baba Frick character, I don't know what
He
that creature
wasn't,
is
I don't
called.
think he was a Bobber Frick.
No, he wasn't, but he was like a little character. He was like paying him, and I was like, the way he ran off with that credit, Wim overpaid.
Oh,
I could
Wim
tell.
overpaid.
Wim way overpaid. And it was getting kind of weird that even as they were going around, nobody knew. Everyone thought they were lying about the planet that they were from. And it was funny when they stopped in front of the brothel and they were like, should we go in there and ask directions? And Fern, I think, was the only one who caught on to what it was
Yeah.
and was like, no, we should not go in there.
Yeah. And the girl like then sees them.
And like, she looks so alarmed.
Yeah, she's very alarmed. She cares. So she goes up to the kids and they're like trying to find their planet. And this is when I was like,
Because she thought they were joking.
they thought they were joking. They're like, you need to come up with a better story than that if that's what you're going with. Because they called Ad Astron the
At
treasure.
Aten.
Ad Aten. And so
So when they were at the bar,
In Star Trek there's a phrase called Ad Astra and it keeps going in my
oh,
head. And that's where so Ad Aten the was it the Lost Treasure Planet?
yeah, so when they were at the bar and they were trying to pay with these credits, that's where you find out that they are what did I how did I write it? I thought I wrote it. That they are um mint condition Republic era credits.
And this is why in episode one credit was locked in the vault because they
Oh,
are very valuable.
yeah.
So even
Because it
though
was
to us we
shiny.
were like, there's just one little thing in there, what the crap?
But
This
yeah,
scene shows
so
you how wanted these things are
yeah, so when they were saying no, we're from at and they're like, you're lying. That's a lost planet of
of
eternal
eternal
treasure.
treasure.
And I was like, ooh, there's a
So, and this is
story.
the point where I was like, is this a planet that is thought to be destroyed but wasn't situation? Is this like a lost moon of Poosh from Doctor Who situation where it's
I
like
don't know
it's
what that means.
disappeared?
But I think it's just a myth at this point in history. Like I think it existed but it's been so long since anybody has ever been there that people think it's a myth. It's like a treasure hunting story, right? Like
If the ships can't find it, I feel like it's more than a myth that it is cloaked in some way. That
well, but that's why I think that the pirates think that it's a myth.
yes, it's very much the lost city of gold. It's the like fountain
Yeah.
of youth. It's that missing treasure that for pirates is like what they're seeking, but the actual planet itself, I think,
Is
is like cloaked in some way. It's
and I
not
think
on
that's what the
star maps
barrier
because they
is.
don't, yeah, and that's what I think. And I think that because no starships are going by it or stopping at it, so there's something that's hiding it from people. So I'm like, do they
Yeah.
think this planet was destroyed at some point?
I wonder if that's what it is, right? Like they think it's destroyed. And I wonder if that's how so this is where I was like, is that's how it was developed the way it was? Because there
Mhm.
is no star travel. So you have to innovate on the planet, right? So like the population grows, you build cities, you build towns, like
Is it that there is no star travel and that's why the planet is this way? Or is it that the people in charge on this planet were like, we're done with these wars, these space battles, these Death Stars. We're cutting ourselves off from anything outside of us and we're protecting what we have and not
yeah,
venturing.
because there's no trade then, right? So like
Are we
everything they
Moana in this island? This is just our island. We don't
yeah.
go across the reef.
That's what it seems like. And the barrier is the reef, right? Like, and so the government at some point in history has decided
Yes.
that we're done. Um,
Can we
which I
talk
thought
about
was cool.
our tattoo droid that we saw in
Oh
the
yes, the tattoo droid was hilarious when they ran past and he's like, "You've ruined it," and then the customer looks at it and like, "No, it's fine, it's fine.
He's like, yo, it looks great.
I didn't mess up."
And
Uh,
then our pirate crew is back.
yeah, so we see Urkel, we see Brutus. I don't know what Urkel's character is.
Gunter, I believe his name is. Urkel's real name is Jaleel White.
Oh yes.
His real name is not Urkel. That is who he played in Family Matters. His name is Jaleel White. He actually has a book coming out soon about his life and growing up and everything. Check it out.
Yeah, but I didn't catch him in the beginning and I didn't realize he was in the show. So I saw him and I was like, "Oh my God." And then I realized that he was on the bad pirate crew with the wolf guy Brutus, which of course his name was Brutus.
You
Um
too, Brutus?
yeah, I did enjoy that like they almost got saved by oh God, I'm is
SM-33.
SM-33 and it was so badass the
It was.
way that he
I thought
saved
they were
them.
going to succeed. And then
I had
SM-33 is dead again.
oh
How
yeah,
many
he
lives do droids have? Is he like a cat? Is he going to come back? Do we think he's going to come back?
well, I mean, I feel like droids can always get rebuilt, but I wonder if there's like how does their personality live? Like if is it like the
I think he's coming back.
master board, but like I it's maybe the shot only hit like his power
Yeah. Like he just
to
needs a
his
new power
brain.
cell.
Yeah, something like that. So they get captured, and then I love
And they're in a
how they're like,
brig, and Wim going, what's a
what
brig?
is a brig? I thought was so cute because then like they're 11, they don't know anything about that.
Which is crazy
Um,
because like we grew up watching we all knew what a brig was because of like the stories we read.
Yeah, it's like jail. I wrote the dirt is really dirty because it was
Yes.
so dirty in the brig.
It was.
And I loved how they were trying to get the little rat that Neil saved, by the way,
Yes.
from SM-33's head. He took the rat and he saved it, and then he tried to get the key with it. And I loved how they actually thought that was going to work. They were like, yes, we've
So,
trained
so
this
hopeful.
rat
In the 30 seconds he's been not in the droid's brain.
that he's gonna lift the keys and bring it to us. But again, it's like these kids are starting to get this hopeless feel to them.
Yes.
And
Then
it
there's
was so
Noi.
sad to watch. Oh my God, it was so creepy. I clocked what it was the second it started, right? Like it was so obvious. Because we also know who the main character, like not the main character, but the main adult.
We know the adult we all love that is in this show and that what his job is going to be.
Yeah,
Dumble
so
Daddy.
Jude Law's character, which we don't get a name for in this episode,
We don't have his
but
name yet.
there is a name online.
We're
But
not gonna, let's not say his
no,
name until we get to that episode.
yeah, so I thought he looked creepy AF, and I was just like, I loved the way they introduced him because I was just like, these poor kids, they're in a desperate place. They don't know how to get out. They just want to go home. And he can hear them talking, right? So he hears them say and all this stuff about how people don't understand that's where they're actually from. And
Mhm.
I and then he like comes out and it is revealed. I love the reveal, by the way. It was amazing where he was like, it's just an illusion. How, like, the distance between us and the key. And I was like, this guy is cracked. What is he saying?
He's a Jedi. Or he's force sensitive.
Well, that's true.
Let's say that. Let's go with he's force sensitive because we don't know what side he's on yet. We know he's going to be helping the kids, but is he really helping the kids?
Well, that's why, because like I have a theory based off of these episodes, because there was only one person in the brig. And I was just kind of like, from what we saw at the very beginning of episode one, this brig would be assumed to be under Brutus's control. So that's where I was like, there's no one else in there. There's really only one conclusion that I have of who he could be in the brig. And I think I wrote it in my comments.
Jedi
I was
Daddy, WTF, I thought he was the old captain of the pirates before Wolfman with the
so I was
mask.
like, I'm really confused. I was like, is it him? Is it not him? Is he just a Jedi they captured? I really don't know.
Or just force sensitive. I don't want to
So
say.
like I don't
Wham
understand.
assumes he is Jedi.
Yeah, Wim assumes he's Jedi. I don't understand. Is this like Rey is force sensitive?
Well, I want to say it that way because, like,
Like I don't understand the difference. A Jedi is a trained person in the
Kylo
force.
Ren started out being trained as a Jedi, but then he went to the dark side.
Yeah,
So I want to say they have like the powers of that we know of the Jedi, but we don't know if he's actually what side he's
Jedi.
on. So
Oh,
like
because this is after the sixth movie, right? So the original trilogy. So like the Sith are fully like out.
we have a lot going on right now. So like
Yeah,
we know at some point
he's force sensitive and he can
as a
control it.
child, he with the abilities he has, the Jedi would have noticed him. We
Yeah,
don't know his history yet to know if he was trained as a Jedi. Wim assumes he's Jedi because he has Jedi powers, but there are other forces out there that have those same powers that were trained in different ways. So I don't
yeah.
want to say he's a Jedi yet.
Oh,
I want Jude Law
but
Jedi, but
I
I
know, but
don't
I
want
don't
to say
know.
that he is actually a Jedi, but that he is force sensitive because he
Yeah.
might not be the good guy.
I just like really don't want him to betray these little children.
I don't either. But like he's in jail. He's heard about the Eternal Treasure Planet.
Well, because here's the thing, because also they're talking about this amongst themselves away from people. So, like, as an adult in this situation, you can assume these kids are being as truthful as possible, right? So,
Mhm.
like, the things that they are saying, they're talking about how they don't understand why
They have
people
no
don't
filter because
know.
they don't know better.
They don't know better. They have no filter. They don't
Mhm.
think that they have to hide anything.
Yeah.
I think they talk about how he still has a bunch of credits, right? So,
Mhm.
and that's
It feels very, and you may have not seen this movie either. Treasure Planet.
I've not seen that movie.
It's it has major Treasure Planet vibes.
But like maybe that's why like they're taking inspiration from all these like different
Mhm. Well, do you know the movie Treasure Island?
no.
Like I don't know what to do with you. You should watch Treasure Planet. You really should. But it is pretty much about intergalactic treasure hunters, pirates, and a young kid goes off with the pirates and is betrayed by someone he befriends. And it just has those, they find like a map, the treasure map, but in this case, the map is the kids. Because they have now
Oh,
confirmed this planet exists.
exists. So he needs these kids to
This
get
is
there.
this is all theory.
Yeah, this is all
But if
theory.
he is like if he is a pirate that is force sensitive, he now knows this magical treasure planet exists, and these kids are his way to get there because they're
Yeah.
the only ones that have that information.
And it's not even, it's like he has to figure out a way, like
Because
even just to
also,
get them home.
if he's in that jail and is force sensitive, why is he still in the jail?
He could have
He
gotten
could have done
himself
that
out
without
and,
the kids.
but he didn't have a ship.
He didn't have a ship, but still,
So, so like these kids have a ship.
these are not the droids you're looking for. Like, he
That's
could have
right. So
found a
like,
way.
and that's true. But I think maybe he was just like
Well,
waiting for the right opportunity.
yes. And they came in the form of children.
I wonder if we're gonna get a name or meet the woman from the brothel,
Mhm.
because she seemed very concerned about them, right? Like I actually love the way she came up to them. She's like, "Are you children?"
And she spoke on their level.
Yeah, like she came down, and so I wonder.
Mhm. But
So
Fern
like
was like not trusting. I don't think we will.
oh, like she won't be a part of the adventures, but
Yeah,
I hope we see her again. I liked her.
I did like her.
She was the only person there concerned about children.
Yeah, showing up at the pirate place.
But yeah, so after the second episode, how do we feel
I love it.
about I like this. This is so
I'm
interesting to me.
so excited for this journey. It seems a lot of fun. It feels like there's going to be like a lot of little Easter eggs, like a if you know, you know type of situation.
Well, because I also feel like we're now following these kids who don't know anything except what they have learned in stories and
Mhm.
stuff about the galaxy, and they're going to experience it for the first time.
But I also have to like think about the fact that it's mostly like Wim and Neil who know these stories because Wim is invested in stories specifically about Jedi.
Yeah.
But I don't think they really know that much about space.
No, I think it's like whatever came up on the story pad. We
Hmm.
I will say, I think I missed it when we were talking about the last one, but the holograph circus people really brought me back to the Star Wars holiday special in not a good way. I was like, oh no, oh no. But I kind of liked the callback. But I think that like that's how they learn things, right? Like,
Yeah.
and if the norm is not to have a story pad everywhere you go and be so invested in it,
Hmm.
then maybe that's why like none of they're looking to him to be like, ooh, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. I hope someone cleans
So
the ship.
nobody's gonna clean that ship. Um, but yeah, so I'm curious to see if they get off this outpost
I think they will. I
in the
feel
next
like we are
episode.
going to be visiting places each time. There's a lot of talk of that people want them to visit Batu, which we just recently
Oh
talked about in Young Jedi. That's not a
yeah.
confirmed thing. That's a lot of talk on the threads, is that people would love for them to visit like Batu and Coruscant and those places that we've heard of before. So,
Yeah, because it's after. So, well, because also assuming they all get off the outpost into the ship, right?
mhm.
Um, Jude Law's character is an adult who knows how to fly, who knows how to operate starships. So I wonder if he'll be able to access the log and try, because he's going to try and figure out where the ship
Yeah, but
went.
if SM-33 who knows that ship and knows how to run and was like showing the kids how to maneuver it can't access it, I don't know that a human person can.
That's true. I wonder how
If a
old. I'm
computer
like,
can't access computer information,
I'm just like so curious at how old that ship is.
yeah. And we've seen like situations where planets have been removed from star maps, um, and nobody noticed.
There's so many planets.
Yeah.
But
But
yeah,
I'm curious where we're going next. We don't have any like clues because we don't have episode titles either, and I think that is purposeful.
that's so smart. I think that's so smart because, like, even just doing Young Jedi Adventures, like, even
Mhm.
just looking ahead at titles, we have been
Yeah.
ruining some of the surprise
We're
of
like,
them
oh,
for
Nubs
us.
is going on an adventure.
And we're like, cool.
So
But yeah,
next week we'll be covering episode 3 of
yes.
Skeleton Crew. If anyone would like to join us for one of these podcast episodes after the fact, we will be recording on Wednesdays because the episodes are now on Tuesdays. We had to wait 8 days from release. It's a
I know.
struggle.
Yes. Yes.
So send us a message. We will be on Fable each week, so join us over on Fable. All the links are in the Not the Droids Pod Instagram link tree.
And then remember, we're not the droids you're looking for.
But we're the droids you're gonna get.